Hey, what do you say? This is Positive Men Speaking Out, and I am honored to have giants on the call with me today. These are just the real estate market. I'm really this is not really my forte, but it is a subject I wanted to talk about. It's called the housing crisis, right? And so, with this being said, and without further ado, let me go across the room here and to share these interesting people, introduce them to my audience. We're going to start with right next to me. We have off the record. We have David Shabazz from off the record. He is with the new home sales and David. Hey, how you doing, my friend? Oh, my
Hey, I'm
brother.
doing.
I'm sorry.
That's right, bro.
That's right.
Doing well, man. And I just want to. I know you categorize this or you labeled this as a housing crisis. I don't know if we're in a housing crisis as much as we are in a shift of a housing shift more than a crisis. I think is what we're looking at. And I'm very thankful and grateful that you asked me to be on today. So we could talk a little bit about that shift.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. A housing shift. And then we next to David, we have Doug with Union Mortgage. Hello, Doug. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good. Thank you.
Good. Glad you could make it with us. And right
Thanks for
below
having me.
myself, we've got Eric. Eric, what's going on? Eric's not a stranger to the podcast. He's been on, quite a few of them, and he's a more than welcome to be here. He's a veteran of the show. How you doing, E?
I'm good, boss. Thank you for having me.
All right on, man. And we have Lisa. Lisa is a realtor, and she's new to the show. And thank you, Lisa, for coming. We appreciate you. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, we say that one of the best for last. We got Stacy. Stacy's another realtor here in the city of Indianapolis. How you doing, Stacy?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you all very much for being here. So let's get right to it, right? So although I have this podcast titled "A Housing Crisis," but David, what did you say? Give me the title again. What did you say you wanted?
I think it's more of a housing shift.
A housing shift.
Okay. Right. And the reason why I say that, and others on this panel may disagree with that, and that's fine. I've been in this business 16 years. I've watched, I built homes, a ranch style home for $99.9, right? $89.9. You could, back in Indianapolis, back in 2004, I could build you a brand new ranch for $89.9. 3 bedrooms, 2 car, 2 baths. Okay. And for a long time, our prices kind of been, I could build you a brand new home, 150, 4 bedroom. We were the most affordable city in town and in the country. And now other states, other cities, you wouldn't find that. So what we basically caught up with everybody else, and everybody else they went a little bit higher as well. Right. So they saw an increase of 20%. We saw an increase of 20%. We kind of got where everybody else was. So there's a shift, but obviously incomes didn't catch up with that fast enough. So all those times we're talking about getting a skill, acquiring a skill, acquiring a trade, putting yourself in position to be able, to afford a home. And then you have the other caveat of it. There's a lot of single parent homes out there. There's not a dual income coming in. So that plays a role. So now you no longer can afford the market that we're in, if you want to be able to purchase. I read something today that said the housing market, the average median rent is going to be $2,000 a month and starting by June. So basically the next couple of days, they're saying the average rent is $2,000 a month and that the average family, that's what you're looking at. And this is going to be, this shift is really going to have to make people reevaluate their spending habits. I mean, it's just, you're going to have to really shift the way you do things. And that's why I met with an investor today. He said, it's a shift. Everybody has to shift their priorities in order to make it work.
Gotcha. So speaking to some of the realtors here, and I'll start with you, Lisa, are we in a shift/crisis right now? I mean,
yeah, I would say we definitely are. Yeah. And it's not, a lot of people are thinking like, oh, the houses are eventually going to come down. They're not going to come down. I don't think that they're going to go up too much either. I think it's going to, stay.
Level off.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think, one of the questions that I had around this is it because of the supply chain, right? you
Yeah.
know, especially for new homes, right?
Yeah.
You know, the supply chain. So it's things are hard to get now. Prices are through the roof, which is trickling down to, especially for new home sales, getting something built, right? I mean, I had to say it myself. My wife and I, we went out to get a house built. We looked at a home, and it was 700,000. I was like, this is a nice house. We can get it built. It was our final home or favorite home, however you want to word it. And then we go back 2 weeks later, and it went up 20 grand. I'm like, what changed? Oh yeah, well the wood, we have
Yeah.
this problem back getting it. I was like, are you kidding me? And so we just decided to say, oh, time out. Does it make sense for us to do this, considering it might change 2 weeks later on us, right? Should we stay put, or should we pursue this? So I want to ask you, Stacy, is it a supply chain issue?
You could say that, yeah. I mean, it all depends on how you look at it. Some people, the circumstances and their finances are different. It all depends on what you're coming to the table with. When I talk to my clients, I let them know what we're up against and how we need to come at it. You can't just come in with no money. There's a couple things that I could do for them. I do have one thing called ribbon, is where they turn your pre-approval into a cash offer, but you would still have to put up at least like 2% just to get them to attach that addendum to your purchase agreement. So I mean, there's options to work around everything, but at the same time you have to be realistic about what's going on in this market. You can't just come in thinking like a renter, like the renter mentality that I've been seeing a whole lot. A lot of them come in, they think that, what are they, what's those things called? The approvals they do on Facebook and stuff like that. You see all the time where they're like, hey, I can get these approvals. I can make it look like, you've been working here for so long. And, they just try to do all kinds of things right now. And, ultimately, you just got to be realistic with your clients. But I do feel like it's.
But you did mention something. You said they got to put down like 2-3%, right?
It's with this program that just rolled out in Indiana. It's called Ribbon. So basically, you have to be pre-approved in order to be qualified. Ultimately, they'll attach their addendum to your purchase agreement, making it cash in a sense. So in an event where, say, your finances fall through, they're still going to buy that house regardless. The only way they're not buying it is if something's wrong with the inspection and nobody's willing to fix it. Other than that, they're buying that house, Ribbon's buying that house, and then they're going to rent it back to you for so long and then turn around and get you into that house for the same amount that it was listed for.
Gotcha.
So yeah, originally they have you pay like 2% upfront, and say you do end up using your financing through your original lender, you'll just pay 1% is credited to your closing, and then the other 1% goes to Ribbon because we used their addendum to get that house. So
gotcha. Now I get that. That's a special program, right, called Ribbon, that you have to put in like 2% down. But there are certain individuals who maybe don't qualify for that, right?
Yeah.
So this is a question for Doug. Doug, by you being a mortgage guy, and let's say if I want to buy a home and the home is 700,000, and I got to come to it with 5 or maybe 10%, that's like 70K. Who can afford that? Right?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say from my experience, if I'm buying a $700,000 property, 5%, 10% is expected on that buyer, but that's not 700,000 is probably not our norm. I think the biggest issue, I guess, that I'm seeing just in this on this topic is, there's all these people that are first-time buyers that are not going to be buying right now. And the reason they're not going to be buying right now, at least in Indianapolis and surrounding area, is because they're being priced out of the market with the bidding war. And every single deal that I've had over the last at least 90 days, if not longer, there's been appraisal gap on it. you have to be able to support an appraisal gap. And, if we're doing those first time buyer programs, whether it's FHA or whether it's the Home Ready or Home Possible conventional loans, these are people that are, 3%, 3.5% down. And, traditionally we could get some closing costs included. Well, that's not happening anymore either. So, then, they don't end up buying a house right now. And, you guys touched on this, but the real living wage doesn't increase. So the home value goes up, and that's great for people that are holding real estate, but that's not good for people that aren't, because I believe that, wealth creation starts and ends with real estate. When we look
Yes.
at our
Yes.
wealth and our society individually, it's real estate. Every single mortgage payment is putting money in my savings account, and that's the way I see it. And your retirement account. So those are the two pillars of wealth creation. And without these first time buyers being able to get in the market, they may never.
Gotcha. So what I'm hearing is that, basically with some of these prices of these homes and some of the bidding wars, some first time home buyers are really struggling to obtain financing, right? And in that space, Eric, that's what I'm talking for you. You having that background, working with a mortgage company and so forth. Is it difficult for more borrowers to look at government-backed loans such as FHAs and VA loans? Is it a challenge, especially with this market being the way it is, in your opinion?
From what I can speak to in my current role, is that it is a challenge for folks that are uneducated about what they need to do, whether it be a first-time home buyer or either just in a tough situation financially to buy a new home. I can only speak to the market here in Florida. I know due to post-COVID or during COVID, it was a buyer's market and it still is. We've been priced out, and a lot of folks from the Midwest and the East Coast, with the luxury of working from home, has sold their homes there, which were way priced higher, probably $400,000, $500,000, and they're coming down here and retiring early. Where they can get a 4.2 or 4.3 2-car garage, pool, for 350,000, and still got money in the bank. And so it's a buyer's market. Now, what hurts for a lot of constituents here is, like you guys has mentioned on this panel, is that in the state of the nation and the economy, the wages haven't caught up to the escalating prices of new home sales and materials. So you got a lot of new home buyers, first time buyers, and you got a lot of seasoned buyers that are now trying to either just buy a larger property because they can afford to. But a lot of traditional folks here in the South are being priced out because they don't have the income to support it. They don't have the savings account or assets to attain a new home. Mm-hmm. And now the deficit of what's being faced here in the state of Florida is, if you can't afford to be a first-time home buyer or get into a program where it allows you, 2 to 3 years to build up your FICO score or either get your assets and your income up to par, there's no cap on rent here. So you got people that have investment home and apartment complex. They're charging, $2,200, $2,500 a month, which could be typically a mortgage payment on a 4.2 bedroom, a 4.2 single family home, which they're only paying in a 1-bedroom condo or an apartment.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
So they're getting priced out. So it's a very difficult space here in Florida. And as the initial question that you stated, I'm not in that sector right now to know what the lending practices are. I'm not in the front line of originations or sales. So I can only speak to in the secondary market when we're seeing a lot of folks that if they can't go and buy a new home, they're trying to refinance the current home that they have, or either just hold on to the current home that they have by doing modifications.
Right. I think that's probably one of the best. And once again, this is not my forte. I have the experts. I have the big guns on the call here with me to give me their respectful opinions. But I think that even in our situation, holding on to the home that I have, I have a 5,000 square foot home, and not to put my business out there, but my mortgage is under $2,000 a month. So I'm just like, I got the space. Do I really want to take a chance and sell what I have? Because I will never get this, at the rate I have, at the payment I have, at the space I have, I mean, I don't think that really exists anymore. I can go out and buy another 5,000 square foot home and have a mortgage under $2,200 or $2,000. Does that even exist? Am I living in a fantasy land to even think I can even obtain another home in that space? So
I can speak to that. It depends on what you're looking for. So if you position yourself well enough, I have quite a few colleagues that take an opportunity on a disadvantage. Now, especially like I say here, new homes based upon material and inventory is being priced out. However, you do have some folks that are here that are in a hardship. I got a lot of colleagues that are buying foreclosure homes. So to speak to what you're saying is that inventory may be plentiful in that spectrum, and somebody's loss could be your gain. You can go get a home for about 450,000. I mean, for about 4,500 square foot, but it's a foreclosure home. You just got to make sure you get your inspection and the value should be there in it, and you can move right in and purchase that.
But don't you get into a bidding war, like Doug said?
You can. You can. But a lot, like I said again, you're not pressed for it if you're already in a home. You're just looking to buy something bigger or better.
Okay, I got you.
So you're not forced to move from where you're at. You have an idea to say, hey, in my current situation, I want something that's a little bit more robust, maybe a little bit more square footage. Maybe I want, an office space or some type of, amenity that you currently don't have besides the actual square footage. So you position yourself, you seek out that inventory and that property and that opportunity, and then you place an offer.
Gotcha. So here's my question, and this is a question: how is this impacting minority buyers? Considering Black home ownership has dropped 43% in 2020, and that's according to the NAR. So something like this, how is this impacting people of color in obtaining a home?
Again, I'll start with that. I think it's huge. I think it's a huge impact. You think about it, toward the end of the Obama administration, the government had allowed to lower interest rate to its all-time low, a little bit under 4%. So even though we were still trying to educate minorities to understand what it is to buy a new home and get their credit score right and get their income up to par and get their assets together, the actual low interest rate, it actually catapulted them in still without even really understanding the mechanics of what it is to buy a new home. But now that this shift is taking place, a lot of people are taking a step back and saying, hey, you know what? These opportunities, I think if not, it's been about maybe quarter to 5% that the rate has went up. As far as the government, they've been putting it, the interest rate has been going up 0.25% in the last quarter. Mm-hmm. So correct me if I'm incorrect, but now that slows down the appetite for people that are uneducated to purchase because they're like, well, wait a minute, price is going up. I can't get that bottom line rate. And plus, I don't have the FICO score or the income to qualify. So now they put on the brakes and that becomes a hardship. And then they just say, you know what, I'll stay in my safe space. I'll rent.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know what, maybe 2010-ish. I mean, 5% was decent, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I think that these interest rates, there you go. That's the word, right? It spoiled us, right?
We got spoiled with the interest rates. I remember when, early 2000s, many of my clients had 7%, 8%, 9% rates. And then to see it drop, like Eric mentioned, below 4%. But you know what? There are some strategies that I've taken on in the last week or so that have helped keep my clients. I have one with a 4.1 interest rate we locked in yesterday. Another one 4.25 locked in a couple of days ago. So there's some programs out there where the rate is still near 4%, and I'm able to get folks into homes that I probably, if I would have stayed with a traditional FHA 30-year fixed program, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish. So there are some tricks of the trade out there, and I think that you just have to be very strategic about how you move forward with your client.
So for my realtors on the line, Lisa and Stacy, so when when you have a potential customer or buyer who wants to buy a home, they got the credit right, they got all their stuff aligned, it's in order, but they say, but they may not get the interest rate that they potentially want. Are they detoured from buying a home just because of the interest rate?
Yeah, I've had I'm sorry, Lisa. I've had a couple clients already just want to just either back out or have ghosted just because the
Mm,
interest rates have gone up. They look at the interest rate and they're like, oh no, they panic. And I try to tell them like it's only a couple dollars, just it's okay. There's been worser interest rates. I
mhm.
try to calm them down and get them to understand. I put them on the phone with the lender. It still doesn't matter. It's like they get this fear in their head about the interest rates, and I'm like, it's best to just calm down and let's all come together and talk about it. But sometimes that doesn't work. Like me and Doug, we've had a couple of clients that just ran off. They ran off because they got scared of the market. They're scared of what could happen. They're scared of how much they're approved for. They're just scared. And no matter what logic you try to put towards them, that fear, it gets them. It does.
Wow. What about you, Lisa? What's been your experience?
Yeah, a lot of my clients, they get kind of shaken up with the interest rate, but I try to explain to them, like Dave said, they got spoiled with the pandemic. It dropped to like in the twos. So I said before pandemic, it was still in the fives. I started in 2018 and the interest rates were around 5.5.
Mhm.
So I was just explaining like, hey, they went back to the normal. So they were already like that before the pandemic happened. I also tried to explain to them about just buying a property, period. Renting, that money is going, that's not going, it's going to pay off the investor's mortgage, not your own. So I
Mhm.
tried to explain to them the benefits of buying over renting, and try to explain my own scenario. I bought a house last year and I already have over 100,000 in equity in my home.
There you go.
So I try to explain to, hey, if I sell my home, I'm left with some money. You can't do that when you're renting. So
Right, right.
Exactly.
Well, I think Doug said it earlier, right? It's an investment, right?
yeah,
You're paying yourself, right? We have
yeah,
the tendency sometimes as people to take what we have and give it to somebody else,
mm-hmm,
and financial our
Sabotage.
finances. We're making somebody else rich all the
Sabotaging
time.
ourselves.
Yeah,
Well,
but we're never paying ourselves.
Jamil, to go back to your question, you mentioned how does this affect, African Americans and people of color, maybe, and I don't try to lump them into low income and things like that because that's not necessarily the case and all, but that was one of the questions that we had discussed. And I just really think at this point, you have to be very strategic with your client. You have to be
Mhm.
very strategic. You have to be able to say, okay, we're going to set some really clear expectations up front, whether that's including
yeah,
appraisal gaps,
Mhm.
whether that's paying additional closing costs, paying the seller's closing costs. I mean, there's a lot of different strategies that you can
Yeah.
take that would secure that you're going to find affordable and attainable housing. I mean, there's a lot of people selling a lot of junk out there. There's houses that need to be completely regutted. I mean, there's a lot of options out there, some plentiful, some not so plentiful. So my point is that having those conversations with your
mhm,
client up front, setting very clear expectations
yeah,
before we even get in a car and look at anything. You need to have some
Mhm.
money.
Mhm.
And one of the questions that I got from a guy, he's with Century 21. He's a number one sales agent with Century 21, makes millions of dollars. I met with him several months ago. He said the very first question he asked anybody is, "Do your parents have money?" And I was like, "Wow." He said, "Yeah, because we're gonna need 20 to 30 grand just
yeah,
laying around for this transaction."
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
where we are.
mhm,
And for the low income family or folks that are low income, they don't have that unless it's in a 401k.
Right.
And if you really want to purchase a home, you're probably going to have to pull from it. I
mhm.
mean, that's the reality that we're in right now.
I
Wow.
try to steer all my clients from down payment assistance. Like I tell them to put themselves in like a seller's mind frame. So If I can get them on a conventional program, I try to steer them towards that because most sellers are going to pick conventional over FHA. Especially FHA with down payment assistance, because if they get down payment assistance, they can't bring any money above the appraisal if they get down payment assistance.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So here's my question. This question is for you, Doug. The questions I have is that it's a hefty down payment. Does that help with the actual mortgage interest? Right? Does it matter? For example, if I want to put 50,000 down for a house, and but tend to do right. How does that how's that figure out for, like, as far as the payments on that particular property, right?
So the down payment, depending on the program, if you put less than 20% down, you have mortgage insurance. It's the lenders force it. From a buying down the rate standpoint, I'm not sure if this is the place to explain that, but you can always buy down the interest rate, which is generally a certain percentage, sometimes up to, I think 3% is the cap on that you can buy down the rate.
Wow.
So 3% of the loan amount to buy down your interest rate, but then that's a math equation. But all that said, I mean, it's really, money solves everything. And, when we talk about how this affects, the Black community, I mean, for me, it's economic. This is statistics. It's people can give me their opinion all they want, but the statistics are damning. And, when we talk about what issues are facing, communities these days, it's economic. This is economic. It's all economic, and it is discriminatory economically, in my opinion, because money solves everything. If I'm sitting on a 401k that I can tap into, well, down payment, appraisal gap, those aren't issues. But if I'm a first time buyer and I'm just trying to get my foot in the door, my funds are limited. And when who's doing it, at least from what I hear, is the listing agent. The seller doesn't care about what the pre-approval says. The listing agent does. So the listing agent's looking at 15 to, I've heard somebody say 70 offers on one property.
Wow.
Mind-boggling. But it's the listing agent saying that, this is the offer that we should accept based on risk. And when we talk about risk, the government loan programs, which are, I was an FHA borrower on my first property. They're, because of how competitive the market is, they're able to deny the FHA borrowers housing right now. So the person isn't able to buy because they can't cover the appraisal gap.
And in my opinion, Jamil, that is discriminatory when you start discriminating against people because of the type of loan that they qualify for. I qualify for a loan. I'm able to purchase a home, maybe because I'm not doing 5% or 10% down or whatever the case may be. I'm an FHA borrower. This is class action lawsuit stuff here, man. I mean, and people, and some of these brokers, they just don't get it. If I'm going to be denied an offer, a solid offer based on the loan program that my customer or my client has received, I'm coming after you, class action lawsuit, and I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. I'm done playing games with these fucking people, man. And I'm just being straight up with you. My clients deserve, whether they're low income, minority, whatever the case may be, Caucasian, it doesn't matter. They all are afforded the same opportunities as everyone else. And if you discriminate against my client, you best believe you're going to hear from me. And I'm just not as nice as everybody else. I'm sorry.
Put the fire to them. So I'm talking about. You do.
Wow.
I hear someone saying you just all the time.
Yeah. See, that's another thing too, right? We kind of leads to my second question. Another question around that. Go ahead.
Before we move on, can I propose a question to Doug? Doug, in talking about some of the programs, in your sector, is the 80-20 program even available?
Define that a little deeper.
And 80-20, your first and your second, because you're talking about MI and the customer needs to be qualified at with 20% down and 80%. So if they pretty much like at 100%, do you guys offer in your sector an 80/20?
So that program is Home Possible, Home Ready is going to be your discounted MI, 3% down, conventional, but there's income restrictions on that to qualify for that program. As far as mortgage insurance is concerned, you could do and this is again economic, but if you had money, you could single pay your MI up front and then not pay it throughout the mortgage. There's a lot of different options in that regard to cover, but money solves all issues.
But doesn't mortgage insurance only last like the first few years of the actual mortgage, like the first 8 years or so, the way I understand it?
They changed it. So used to be it'd fall off at 78%. And if you're an FHA borrower now, you're forced to pay it for the life.
Right. That's the problem. But conventional, is it still the same? It falls off under 80% if they fail.
78%.
So put more money down to not have it, or less money down to have it for the life of the loan.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some math real quick just to kind of bring this full circle on mortgage insurance. So even if you're a super prime borrower, you've got your 20%, you've got your appraisal gap coverage. So top end credit, the difference between the interest rate on a 10% down and 20% down it's very similar rate generally, and then you'll end up keeping 10% of whatever the purchase price is, and then you'll also only be paying something like $30 a month in mortgage insurance. So let's say the house is $500,000. Well, I'm going to keep $50,000 and I'll pay you my $40 a month in my mortgage insurance until it falls off at 78%, because I'll keep that.
Wow. That's wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a different type of lending, Jamil, that it's not necessarily the rugged predatory lending that we all experienced during the 2008 2007 time frame, but it's a bit different, and the rules have changed in very subtle way. I mean, let's take the student loan, Doug. Take the student loan rule, right? That changed where it's changed to 1%. So if I have $100,000 in student loans, they're going to count $1,000 against me every month. My DTI, my debt to income ratio,
0.5% if you run it through Freddie, not Fannie.
Yeah.
Fannie's 1%, Freddie's half.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
and there's ways around that too. Can't you be set up on like a payment plan and they'll count that lesser amount?
But if you're like on a forbearance, does that still include for example, I
don't think it can be like a zero. You have to kind of force like a payment, because that's what I did when I bought my house. So they put me on like a $45 a month payment, and that's what they counted against me.
Wow.
But just think of the rule though. The 1% or the 0.5% rule. I mean, it's just for somebody to think of that in a boardroom somewhere and say, okay, we're going to charge, if you want to buy a house, it's going to cost you 1% of your student loan amount. I mean, think about that for a second.
So let's talk solution around that real quick, right? So we got listeners, watching us right now, and I guess my question is there any way around that? Are there certain things people can do to try to avoid some of these challenges? Now,
I just spoke about one. Like my 10% for student loans would have been $400 a month, and I set a payment arrangement with the Department of Education, and it was $45 that was counted towards debt instead of $400. So it's ways around it. Yeah.
Okay, but you would have to contact the student loan people in order to make sure
and set up a payment plan. Yeah.
Okay.
So they can count that monthly payment for your debt instead of that 10%.
Okay, and then after you have purchased the home and went through all the steps, you can
Put
go
me
back
on
in.
zero. No.
Okay. Because I'm hearing that financing is a challenge.
Yeah,
it is a challenge, and I'm going to read a quick stat for you guys. This is a Zillow study that was done in 2020. It says 19.8% of Black applicants were denied a mortgage in 2020 compared to the 10.7% of white applicants. What's wrong with this picture here? Right? What's wrong with this picture here? Are we getting higher interest rates than people of color or Black folks getting higher interest rates than non-people of color? I mean, talk to me.
I wouldn't see that. I wouldn't say that. No, I think the rules are the rules now. They're pretty, they are what they are, and you have to fit in that box. And it's not that the box is so small. The box is still pretty wide. You can still, buy a home today. It's not a narrow box. I just think that you have, when you come to the table, you got to come prepared. Remember, I talked about setting those expectations up front.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go buy a home, you need to be ready, and have somebody like Lisa or Stacy to represent you and give you the knowledge that you need to be able to make a sound decision before you're submitting an offer, right? Before they even put them in your car, I would say that, Lisa or Stacy. Right. You want to make sure that Doug has got them, they met with them. We had a lender meeting. We all sat down. We know what the expectations are, how much money is needed before we go out and start looking at homes.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. People will come to you and say they want to buy a house, and their shit not even in order.
I get it all the time.
That's what I was gonna say. Anybody can have home ownership in today's market. They just have to sacrifice for it. Anything worth having, you have to work hard for it.
Exactly.
And I tell a lot of my clients, you have to be realistic. You might not have your dream home for your first home, but just you having a home, that's you having an investment that you can sell in the future and make money from it.
Exactly.
Get your dream home years down the line. So your first home doesn't have to be your dream home, is what I tell my clients.
I keep on almost stepping over you, Lisa. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
No, please, ladies, go ahead.
No, I tell my clients the same exact thing. Like all the time, I set them up with a buyer's consultation. I sit them down. I have them look at the purchase agreement. If we have time, I go over the whole everything, like literally from top to bottom, A to Z, just so they can understand what we're getting into. And if they feel like they're ready, then we'll move forward. But everybody wants to be a homeowner. Of course you can, but like Lisa said, like everybody's been saying, you have to make sacrifices. You have to really put yourself on a certain discipline and stay focused on that, because otherwise you're never going to get there. If you're going out, okay, we're finally get an offer show, we finally get an offer accepted, and then you go and open up a credit card. What are you doing? Now that's messing you up. Or you go and spend all your down payment money, or you're like, okay, you get cold feet because you feel like it's going to be too much for you to handle. After we've already talked about everything that's going to, come with being a homeowner, you're going to have to take care of your HVAC. You're going to have to take it, you're going to have to handle all those expenses that come with being a homeowner. And a lot of people, they get cold feet, or at the end of the day, they just don't understand the value of being a homeowner, and understanding that once you step in that realm, you're setting your family up for life. That's generational wealth that, if you have kids, I have kids. So, my babies, I want them to be completely set for life. Just one home, holding on to that one home. Like that's going to be for them for the rest of their life. And then my kids' kids and their kids' kids, they won't have to want for anything as long as they hold on to that house, grandma's house. Yeah. So that's the whole thing that I try to get everybody to understand. Like, yeah, like Lisa said, it may not be what you want, but take this little hit for a second, hold on about 3 to 5 years, and then sell it. Yeah. Or rent it out.
Yeah, I try to be an example for my clients. Like, I'm divorced, a single mother of 2. I was a housewife before I became a realtor. So if I could buy a house that's over 200,000, so can you. Mm-hmm. Real estate is up and down. And it was even harder to buy, me being self-employed versus, my clients that are,
W-2.
W-2. Yeah. So I'm just like, if I can buy it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. No. I just found it very, very interesting. I guess, here's a question I wanted to ask. And now that I got the heavy hitters on the call, what was up with this mortgage fraud that happened a few years back? I mean,
What year? 2008? What year are you
I think it was like 2005, 6-ish or so. You know, they were just giving homes away. There was
That's
a
before my time, before I was in real estate. So Dave and Eric and Doug,
Okay,
you might
okay.
not
We
know.
we ain't gotta get in all that. Hey, look, okay, I am the elder statesman here. I'm probably older than everybody on here. But look,
No, I'm not talking about your age. I'm just talking about your experience in real estate.
I understand. But look, what you're right, Jamil. So literally you could do a no, I mean, Eric, you may remember those days. You could do a no income no loan.
Mhm.
Remember those loans?
Yeah.
All you if you had a 650
call them Minas.
credit score and you could it was called stated income. Remember that, Eric?
You had that as well.
Income.
You had
I know
stated
somebody
income,
that
stated
does.
asset. You had no income, no asset. That was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot going on.
wow.
Yeah.
You
Or they
could
had the
literally
bank statement
qualify for
program.
$1 million home just based on your FICO.
Yep. Yep. No, you didn't need any bank. You didn't need any pay stubs, no W-2s. So that was just out of control lending. You know what I'm saying? Like there were people buying homes, buying 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 homes that way.
And then you had one other one. There's another third popular one called no interest rate.
Yeah.
You had
Yeah,
zero
I remember that.
interest rate for the first 3 to 5 years. Zero. You didn't have to pay
Wow.
any interest.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Who designed these programs? That's a scam in itself.
It was a prime buying tool for investors.
Yep.
You can buy up as many property. When I was underwriting, you can do up to maximum of 6. And you know, at that point, you were renting them out, sitting on them until the equity, would increase on them, and then you would sell them before the actual interest rate would kick in and it becomes due. But what happens is a lot of customers were buying them as single-family residents, and then they got in there and started making their payment, living life. Those 3 to 5 years go by, and then their payment balloons.
Yep.
Now they get payment shock. Next mortgage payment $2,000. Way back in the day, they was like, "Where am I get that from? I don't have it."
Wow.
A lot of them even have to sell or they lose their home.
You remember, Eric, when they had the 228, right? Remember that was a big one. People bought the 228 loans, and you were basically fixed for the first 2 years, and then after that, it was adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah.
And that payment could go from $600 to $1,200. Their payment doubled. Now they're losing their home. Here comes the foreclosures.
But isn't there like a cap off, right? I mean, isn't it like percentage? Like, isn't there like a cap off? Like you had, it's like, I don't know, doing some sort of a variable interest rate type loan.
Prime +2, prime +4.
Yep.
Okay. Because
those are your arms.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would throw a prepayment penalty on top of
it. Yeah.
Which would, stick them to it. They can't even sell it. Now they got to pay the lender a premium of a penalty.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that predatory? Yes, that's predatory.
Yeah, that was considered predatory. All the prepays, yes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so. So I'm hearing that doesn't exist today. Those type of programs or
thank God
lending that doesn't exist.
Well, we're not careful. A lot of those Ninas and Status may be back.
Well, the bank statement programs are back, but they're back with a 10%. Most of them are 10% or more down. There may be a 5%. I don't know, Doug. You have a bank statement program.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know some of those programs are back, but the no stated income. I don't foresee those, but you just never know. You never know. Wow. What happened is that those programs were for investors, and then the public found out about them. You know what I mean? And then the public
self-employed.
Yeah.
But some people went to jail for that, though, right? Didn't some people go to prison for taking part in this mortgage fraud?
Well, not necessarily.
I think that was more so.
Bernie Madoff went to jail for other stuff, but you think about a lot of the big heavy hitter lending institutions were fined heavily, and then they had to sell off a large portion of their assets.
Wow.
So if you think back when that finally dissolved and the courts, laid the gavel on it, you have Bank of America doing a huge split. You had Citibank had to sell off some shares. Mm-hmm. A bank that I worked for over 15 years, they completely dissolved and moved out of North America, HSBC Bank.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
Yeah.
They were big. They were big.
So when the government, laid the hammer down on a lot of lending institutions, a lot of them had to pay the restitution or just fold completely. You look at Countrywide, that used to be in business years ago.
Oh yeah. Countrywide was
big. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, they had the commercials and everything, but they were really big. Wow. Wow. That's very interesting. Thank you.
What happened is that you had these programs and then you had everybody started buying houses, right? And one of my friends built a house. I said, man, shoot, we both got to graduate the same year. I said, where did you build your house at? Oh, I went to the model. I said, okay, let me go over here and I want to try to build me a house. You know what I mean? And then that's how it happened. But you had all these programs out there that would allow for someone who may have no job. All they have is an excellent credit score, could buy a home. And then they saw, oh man, where'd you buy I bought my house with XYZ builder. And then they went, and then the next person went, and then the next person went. And it was just a trickle down effect because you bought a house. Okay, I want to buy a house. And then the next person buy a house. And that's how it happened. And then what happened is that all these people lost their homes, or not all of them, but a large number of them lost their homes because they weren't ready to buy houses. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Once we get in there and start educating folks, and that's why you have people like Lisa and Stacy and Doug, all these folks out here, they're educating borrowers now. It's a different game because we understand we don't want to be a part of what happened or what our parents went through, our cousin went through, or our auntie or uncle went through. A lot of those younger generation, they understand what happened. They're not going to let that happen again.
Don't get me wrong. There's still realtors or whatnot out here that aren't educating their clients. They're out here just, trying to make a quick buck. That's why, I take my time with my clients and I make sure they understand what we're getting into before we even move forward. There's no point in me putting you in a position where you're going to lose the house.
Gotcha. So I have a question too. Now, tell me about this. I list my house. I get, people to bid on it or to put offers in on it. But I want to stay in my house after it closes. And I want you to pay the mortgage while I stay here because I ain't ready to move yet.
It's a seller's market. The sellers can get whatever they want.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I did that when I bought my house. They stayed 30 days after I paid for the house. So
Yep.
But
wow.
Yeah.
Most lenders won't let it go past 30 days though.
Well, I say that to say this. There was a house that my wife and I were looking at, and I believe it was a beautiful home. It was within budget, had all the bells and whistles and wet bar and all that stuff off. And so I said, hey, I want to put an offer in on it. And so, working with a realtor, we had a Zoom call and said, okay, well, this is what they're asking. They're asking, for you to put this money down, but they want you after closing, they want to stay in it for like another 3 months because they're relocating and at this time of year, and we're not there yet. So they want to stay in the house and they want you to pay the mortgage, and they didn't want to pay any rent or anything. They just wanted to stay there. I'm like, are people that bold to even ask to stay in the house without paying a goddamn dime?
Yeah, they can do it. They can do that. There's a couple of lines in the contract where you can say where you're going to pay like damages or if they're going to do rent back or whatnot.
But they got at least have renter's insurance, right? Because they don't own the home anymore. I own the home. And it's I own the home and they're staying in the home.
In place. You'll still have your homeowner's insurance in place.
Right, but
You're still on the risk.
Help me understand this. If you get an apartment to rent, a requirement for some apartments anyway is for you to get renter's insurance. Yes?
Yeah.
The apartment itself has insurance, but you still got to get renter's insurance for your 400 square
for your
foot
personal stuff.
space.
So yeah, if they want their personal things, then yeah. But they ain't got nothing to do with you, their personal property.
Right.
So they can destroy the house in them 3 months, and when you take possession,
No, it
So I
has
have a
to
question
stay.
for
Your
you.
homeowner's insurance will cover the house itself.
Right.
It will, but it also has to stay in
In
good
the same,
condition.
your
Yeah.
realtor has to write that in your purchase
Mhm.
agreement
Yeah,
that it's in the same condition,
because then you can take that, like you can get them for that. You can't do that. So you have to protect your client. Also, you can't just let somebody stay there.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean,
You
Stacey,
Listen,
you
know.
were
if you
saying.
was my buyer, I'll say let's go for that deal. Because you'll have almost 2 months of not paying your first mortgage payment.
Right,
Mhm.
So
yeah,
Right.
but they'll be in the house, right? Because the first time I buy a house, I got to change the toilet seats, so I don't know what's been going on. First thing I do, change the toilet seats. So I'm just saying. But you were saying though, Stacey, that there are some realtors out there who are just trying to make a buck.
Yes, and they'll put their
Who don't
clients
have
in
your
that
interest in
situation.
mind.
Yes, yes,
well,
and
I'm
it
not
just
one of those.
right. Neither
I would
am
just tell my buyer we can sacrifice 3 months. If
Hey,
this
but
is
y'all
your
do
dream
snap, snap.
home,
I. And
if this is your dream home that you want, I will sacrifice 3 months.
it also just depends on what the situation is for the seller too. Like if they're building a home or if they're trying to look for their home or something like that.
They
Okay, we can
could
give
be
you
out
a little bit
faster
more.
than the 3 months. They just need
Exactly.
time to find their next property. We could
Hmm.
be faster
Okay.
than that.
Like
Okay.
they can't just stay there,
You got to
just
sacrifice a little bit in this market.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. No,
just
I
a
can
little bit,
respect that.
just
I
a little
respect
bit.
that.
I wouldn't tell my buyers to do anything that I wouldn't do. So
Hmm.
Okay. All right.
I treat
So
them like I treat
so the
myself.
so the
Uh-huh.
solution here on this call is to contact Lisa and Stacy. That's the
Yeah.
solution, right? We're talking solutions. Is to contact you two and then go see Doug for mortgage financing.
Yeah,
Basically.
my guy
And then
Doug
after
over there.
and then after they do all of that,
Yeah.
they bring the buyer to my model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
After all that happens,
It'll come full circle.
go all the way around.
Full circle. All right. Okay. All right.
Where are you located, Dave?
Uh,
What model are you in right now? Are you in the Fisher's model?
They have me in Fishers right now, and
Ooh,
yeah,
that
I'll be
house
there
is
for a
so
while.
nice.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
beautiful. It's
It's so
beautiful.
nice.
Is
I'll
that
be
why
there
it'll ever
for.
be on the market?
I would probably say in a couple of years they're going to put
A
it on
couple
the
years.
market. Right now they have me in Fishers for. I'll probably be there for at least the next 6 months, and then they're going to put me in a model. We have 2 brand new neighborhoods coming in Warren, and both of those neighborhoods will start in the 250 price range. So yeah, single family, both of them. I mean, you're probably looking at 100 lots at each location. So starting 250 price range, and you can have an FHA loan. So we don't.
And I just want to say this is men speaking out. And the next time we do a plug like that, I'll be looking for a paycheck to be put on the show for.
Well, we do have a referral program. So
I'm just teasing. Okay, let's talk. This is the last subject I want to kind of get into. Gentrification. Right. That's crazy, right? It has the power to displace low-income families, or more often, prevent low-income families from moving into previously affordable neighborhoods. It's, how can I put this? It's very disheartening to see, like, down like on 25th and Capitol, right? Down those areas over there, and to know 20 years ago, people, those homes where you didn't even want to look at them, didn't even want to be bothered with them, and now those same properties out there on Broadway and Capitol and things of that nature are being revamped, and these tax sales, people are getting these homes for a little bit of nothing, and turning around and putting money into them and selling them for $400,000 or $500,000 that 25 years ago wouldn't even go for 75 grand, for that matter. So what's happening here, right? What's happening in that space, right? Is property being? Is it the taxes, right? Is it are they pushing people out of those neighborhoods to bring people from the suburbs back into the city so they can get to work quicker? They're not driving from Fishers for a whole hour up and a whole hour down. That's 2 hours on the road to get to and from work. what's happening? How can we? Well, let's say, well, not say this is a joint effort. How can we stop gentrification? Is it tax relief programs, zoning laws? I mean, talk to me. You guys are the experts.
You know,
Well,
go ahead. Go ahead.
well, one thing I can say, I wish it was like a cap on investors on how much property they can buy in this market, because that's who I'm seeing buy in that area the most is investors. I do have a client that's buying in that market next month, and she's buying it from her grandmother. So her grandmother is going into a nursing home, and she's basically getting that house on a short sale. So,
Mm.
but driving down that street, it looks like it's a lot of investors that are trying to do flips on in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, I got to admit, me and my little brother were talking about doing that a few years back too, right? Say, hey, we saw an opportunity,
And they're
right?
not getting those houses for low. They're getting those houses for close to two investors.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that I did, Jamil, as you know, I had an opportunity to meet with Congressman Andre Carson. And we sat down and we spoke about this very topic, gentrification, not only affordable, but accessible housing. And so on the 3rd of June, I'm meeting with the mayor's office and the Department of Workforce Development and some other folks downtown with Andre, Congressman Carson, to figure out land acquisition downtown, near downtown, in those spaces that they own that we can build homes on and make them affordable for families. In order to get things done around here, you have to push people that we elected to get things done the way we want them done.
Mm-hmm.
right.
If we continue to go about things carelessly and without providing folks with some type of a push, or we got to, like my mother used to say, sometimes you got to light a fire in their ass. You know what I mean? You got to get them moving. You got to get them up and rolling.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to do that. And we voted for them. You know what I mean? Like we not saying people here, but folks voted them in. So, Mr. Congressman, Mr. Mayor, you folks are working for us, and the people that voted for you can't even live in the district anymore. You know what I mean? So what's going on? What's really going on? Do we need to vote you out and get somebody else in that can vote and that can push our interests? Being a part of the political system, the political democratic process is exactly what we as people need to do. You mentioned last night on a different podcast, get out and vote. Well, we need to get out and make these people understand that our votes matter. So I'm very gracious for the opportunity to sit with the mayor and the congressman and all those folks, which, is great. But at the same time, what can you do for me, right? What can you do for the people that I represent in my city, that I love this city and I love the folks that are here? And how can I get that message and take it back to people like Lisa and Stacy and Doug and all the folks that I work with and say, you know what? We got an opportunity to help some families. That's what it's all about. And that, Jamil, is the secret sauce. It's trying to figure out a way, how can we mobilize, right? Mobilize and figure out ways to be innovative and utilize strategies to improve the condition of our community. And we do it with everybody. It's not a secular thing. We don't work in silos. We bring everybody together to make it work harmoniously. And I think that we are on to something great. It's just a matter of time, and we're going to hold these people's feet to the fire. My mother used to always say, be ready. What she used to say? She used to say,
be ready. If you don't,
be ready, even if you don't get to go.
Don't get to go.
You got to have your suit. You got to have your jacket on and ready. Even if you don't get to go, just be ready. And
ready.
We're going to be ready. We're going to be ready when I meet with them on the 3rd of June.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that close. And actually, I got one question. I want to go around the virtual room here, and I want to ask, what's the best advice you can give to anyone who's starting the journey of looking for a home? And I'm gonna start with you, Lisa. What's the best advice you can give anyone?
The best advice I would say is to educate themselves as much as possible. I think knowledge is power. And the more we know, the more better decisions we will make for ourselves. So,
Okay, awesome. Doug, what about you?
You know, that's great advice. Read a book. Life doesn't stop when we get out of college or high school, wherever that stopped. And um, education is a community, and you know, we talked a little bit about that. You know, each one teach one. You know, something happens in the community, and I hear about it. I want it, but sharing the right information is extremely important, because you know, we grow together. And um, I don't feel like collectively that we are all in unison sometimes with just the information. There's a lot of mixed feelings, especially if you turn on the TV or look at your phone. So, you know, surrounding ourselves with the right people and experts in our field, people that we can trust, that have our best interest in mind. Um, that's, in my opinion, the first step. Best advice.
Gotcha, gotcha. Um, brother, off the record, brother David, what's the best advice you can give someone looking for a home?
Oh, the best advice I think I've given clients over the years is make sure you have your affairs in order. When you're doing business, let's do business. It's not we're going to develop a relationship, but also understand, like Lisa said earlier, this is not going to be your last home, right? Yeah, it's a huge investment, but this is just the first part of, especially when you're working with first time home buyers, what I'm alluding to is to have your affairs in order, understand credit, and don't take everything so personally. When I tell you, hey, these are the things we need to do, A, B, C, and D. Are you just not trying to help? They'll say, oh, you're not trying to help me. You're not, no, man, I'm trying to help. I'm giving you what it is that you need to be successful in life. But the problem is some people that don't want to listen. So the best advice I give them, don't take everything so personally. Have an open mind, have an open heart, and then we can find a solution to your problem.
Okay, right on, right on. What about you, Eric? What's the best advice you give someone looking for a home?
Ask any and all questions. There's no such thing as a bad question. They can never not ask enough questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. Stacy, saving the best for last. Tell me, what is the best advice you give someone looking for a home?
Really, it's a combination of what everybody said. Honestly, be open minded. Because if you're closed minded, if you're not willing to be teachable, then how are we even going to help you? How are we going to get you to your destination? How are we going to get you to that final step of generational wealth? What are we doing here? If we can't even talk to you and be frank with you, be upfront and let you know what you need to do, and you're combative about everything, then we're not going to be able to help you. And that's just being completely honest, just being open-minded, being teachable, being ready and prepared, educating yourself. If you don't know where to start, you got two amazing realtors on the line here that can definitely get you where you need to be. And trust me, I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And if I don't know, I know 1,000 people that do. So that's just one thing that, you have at your disposal here, is just to, if you don't know something, find somebody who does. And everybody on this call here, we definitely know what to do, and we'll get you to where you need to go.
Okay, okay.
Jamil, on our first day of school, we all had our brand new kicks, right? We had our clean socks, brand new socks and jeans and nice designer clothes, right? We were ready, right? We had our book bag and brand new erasers and pens and notebooks. And that's how you got to be when you buy a house. You got to be ready. You know what I mean? You go into that classroom ready to go with your with your backpack and all your stuff. And like a carpenter, you come with your tool belt and your tools. Buying a house is the same. It's the same analogy, man. Same philosophy.
I always say proper preparation prevents poor performance. And
Yeah.
that's just what it comes down to at the end of the day. So with that being said, I got these heavy hitters on here, but everybody's from the left and the right. I'm loving it. Hey, I want to thank you all very much for for taking your time to spend with me. I'm honored, here on this Thursday night. And you guys are wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
I
you for having
appreciate you
me.
guys so much. And man, I'm gonna go do some research now and help somebody else. I'm gonna spread the word. And the next time we have plugs for real estate agents, mortgage companies, and home builders, I'll send you an invoice. It's all good. All right, guys. Thank you very much for speaking out. I'm Jamil Shabazz, or known as Boz, your host. And thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks for having me.